What's up, guys? It's Addy here, back with another video. Talking about the NBA trades and rumors and free agency that's still going on. A lot happening. A lot of teams involved with what's going on, and it's very important to stay informed. So thanks for joining, and yeah, let's get into it. These are the guys I'm going to be talking about. So yeah, let's get right into it. Not going to be that long a video, but I thought I'd get out the information. Uh, that I wanted to share with you guys. But anyway, getting right into it, there's a lot that's been going on. Carmelo, obviously wanting to get traded. I think it's important that the Knicks, really take this into consideration because, he's got that trade clause, and this is the time where they can get rid of a guy who's, not too old to get a lot back. And the Rockets, I think, know that. That's why it's taken so long. Obviously, Carmelo's a great scorer, and I think the Rockets know what he's worth. But I think the Knicks should really be trying to rob them right now and get a lot of good money and assets that they can use later on, because the Knicks are really stuck in a weird situation here where they've got an old star who can't lead them anywhere. They've got a young new star in Porzingis, who really is the face of the team now. They had the issues with Phil Jackson, that really. Wasted a lot of their time and almost had some stupid trades, but good thing they got rid of him. Now they're trying to get Carmelo off the team because obviously he wants to leave, and I think it's important as Carmelo's situation that Carmelo himself should want to leave. He's spent basically most of his career on the Knicks, and I think the most success he really had was in Denver, and I think it's better for him to go back to the West, even though it's easier in the East. His best chance reaching the finals was obviously, joining the Cavs, but that's probably not a situation that's going to work out, and I don't think he really wants to go there anyway, because he probably just wants, free spirit, do his thing, and he obviously has friends there on the Rockets, Chris Paul. Even though LeBron and him are great friends as well, I think going to the West is probably the better option. And at this point, everyone's trying to beat the Warriors. So the Knicks know they're not going to do anything with Carmelo anyway. It's kind of just chip away at his career until he's worth nothing and he leaves on his own, which eventually he will do. And that'll just be a huge problem for them anyway. So, that's basically a win-win situation for both. It's better that the Knicks realize it now than just wait around and screw over both of their futures because, Carmelo's getting old. He is old. And, at this point, he should just, be on a team where he's not the main option, but he gets to go out and he just gets to score because he's not at the age anymore, and he's not the player that, takes all the scoring into his own hands. He's going to have Chris Paul and James Harden in front of him. I think he's going to be more of like the third option, really. Scoring wise, probably the second, because Chris Paul is really more of a passer and scores on the side as well. He's like Rondo with a shot, which I've said a lot. And that's very important. Paul, they've got a great passer. James Harden obviously scores like 40 a game, and he's the main scorer. And then you add in Carmelo, who can, obviously score 20 a night and have breakout games as well. He scored 60 in the past, which obviously as he gets older won't happen all the time, but it's important that if you're Carmelo, you want to go out, you want to make the playoffs, play big games. Rockets will obviously make the playoffs, and they can obviously use the help as well because other teams are really stacked. The Warriors obviously have a lot going on for them, and they have 4 All-Stars, which is the main goal here. And maybe the Rockets, try to get Carmelo and then sign LeBron next year. Who knows? But I think it's important if you're Carmelo that you waive that trade clause and hope for the Rockets and Knicks to reach a trade agreement. Which I think will happen very soon. So hang in there, Rockets fans. It's going to be great. But moving on to Derrick Rose to the Cavs. I mean, this is pretty interesting for both sides. I grew up seeing Derrick Rose when he was awesome and when he had the downfall. So it's very entertaining to watch Derrick Rose when he was in his prime, and obviously I think he's done with the Knicks as well. But I think he can make a very interesting shooting guard option for the Cavs. He brings a different type of intensity when he's at his 100%. He's a very quick player, great finisher at the rim. He can shoot the shot pretty well, but I think it'd be very interesting to see him and LeBron team up. And if he has a good season, maybe he can really contribute to the Cavs a lot. I think he's a player that had a lot going for him, and then that injury, I mean, it was probably the worst thing that could happen to a player. Derrick Rose had it all set up for him. He was on a great team that could beat LeBron. He won MVP, the youngest guy ever. And it was very depressing to see what happened to him. And I mean, he's just been injury filled basically for his whole career. But he's not old. He's still 27, 28. Has a lot in him left, and hopefully if he can. Rejuvenate all those skills. He has them in there. It's just that, if he can have a season where it's not injury filled, he tore his ACL. I'm pretty sure he tore his MCL in there. He has a lot of back problems as well. So he's definitely a liability in the sense that he could get injured and then his season's all over. But, and I think that's why, teams just like pick him up and then release him because, I think at this point it's just about teams are nervous that they'll sign him, and then I think teams sign him because they think that maybe he'll get those powers he had before again, become that MVP Derrick Rose again maybe one day, because he's so young that it's hard to say that his career is over. A lot of players make comebacks, and they're hoping that, he's still got the speed, maybe a little less speed, but he's still got the speed. He can still finish at the rim. He's still got the skills, but he's just so injury prone. So if he can have a good, full season with the Cavs, I think he can really help them out and maybe even start for them because, going back, if you look at when he was an MVP and then think about him and LeBron teaming up, that would have been very scary. But, after this injury, it's kind of just like a news on the side, which I think shouldn't be taken that lightly. Maybe he can get his, athleticism, his power back, which could be very interesting to see. And obviously, he won't be as quick as he was before. But I think, a lot of players make comebacks from injuries as he slams that home. That was very interesting. But, a lot of players make comebacks from injuries, and I think that's very important to think about. Obviously Chicago was his first home, and it's important to, keep in mind what he did back in Chicago. The Chicago was almost a championship team, and they got him first pick, and really, I was a huge fan of Chicago back in the day. They had a great team, but even with the Knicks, I think every team has a little hope that maybe he'll come back as the old Derrick Rose. But I think if he has a season where he's not filled with injuries, I really think he could be a 20 points a game type point guard or shooting guard. And I think for the Cavs sense, the Cavs really didn't do anything this offseason. Obviously, that's where the news of LeBron wanting to leave has come from. And, maybe if you're the Cavs, you should bring in a familiar face of LeBron as well, who maybe could have a breakout season and really contribute to the Cavs very well. He could be as well as Derrick, as well as Dwayne Wade could be to the Cavs as well. He can score and pass the ball, and his speed will definitely help playing those shorter, quicker teams like the Warriors as well. And he's a great defender as well. I think his injuries are just the main part. So I think it's a win-win for both sides. Derrick Rose gets to play on a big, a big side, and a team that's obviously going to be probably playing in the finals because they're, the East is just so open. But if he gets a big shot at this point, because if he plays great in the finals or even in the big leagues, the big games, I think it's been a while since we've seen Derrick Rose in the playoffs. He went in Chicago. Chicago is pretty struggling. We saw Derrick Rose play the Cavs that one time where he hit that game-winning shot, the really awesome one in Chicago. I'm sure everyone knows what I'm talking about. And then LeBron hit the game-winning shot the next game, which, I mean, it was a buzzer beater. It was insane. And, that at that point it felt like, Derrick Rose might be back. But, he just kept getting injured, and then he signed with the Knicks, which was, yeah, it was interesting, when he said they were a super team, but it didn't really work out, even though the Knicks seemed like they were teaming up something really well. I mean, they got Rose, Carmelo, Courtney Lee, Joakim Noah. They already had Porzingis. It could have been something, but it wasn't, and it was a huge disappointment for the Knicks season, not even in the playoffs. But, maybe going to the Cavs can really turn his career around because I think Derrick Rose has really taken a lot of hits. And, as an NBA fan in general, I hope that he comes back and has a great, next season because personally I was a huge fan. And, just in general, you have the sympathy that, it sucks to see such a great player, have such a tragic injury and then not be able to come back from it anyway. But, going on to Dwayne Wade, who, I mean, obviously Dwayne Wade has signed with the Bulls, but, it seems like the Lakers were really interested in Wade at one point, and I know that the Cavs were as well. But I feel for Dwayne Wade as well. Maybe Derrick Rose going to Chicago, as one of you said, could be very interesting to see as well. But, Dwayne Wade, I think, has gotten stuck, and I think he's at the point where, you hate to say it, but he's old enough that it's time to just ring chase. And, it's a thing that everyone hates, and obviously it's it's something that and everyone hates to see what Ray Allen did, what a lot of the guys on the Warriors are doing, Iguodala for instance, and it really makes some people mad. But it's at this point, I think either that or he should sign with the Rockets maybe, because they've always wanted to team up that LeBron James, Chris Paul, Carmelo, and Dwayne Wade, but imagine a lineup where you have those four and James Harden. So I think the Rockets have a lot going because they've picked on that big four dream. And I think they're old enough where it's possible. Dwayne Wade should definitely realize that he's not a max deal guy anymore. Obviously he's not. I mean, yeah, he said it himself that if he was 25, he'd be getting a max deal. But it's not that point anymore. At any point he could get injured, and this could all be over. So I think that's really important to think about if you're a Dwayne Wade fan, if you're Dwayne Wade himself, that, maybe it's time to move on. And for Anthony Davis, I just wanted to talk about, the Celtics rumors. I just made a video on that beforehand, if you guys are curious. And yeah, that could be very interesting to see. The Celtics definitely be the best in the East, maybe even the conference, maybe even the whole league, which would be very cool to watch. Isaiah Thomas, Gordon Hayward, and Anthony Davis up there with Al Horford mentoring him. And add in any shooting guard, maybe even Jason Tatum's that guy. And you've got a solid team that can really give the Warriors some tough matchups and maybe be the best in the league. Who knows? But anyway, guys, this was just some NBA news I wanted to talk about. And thanks so much for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe. And we just hit 1K, so please go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're new. Anyway, guys, thanks. Peace.